on, everybody? Meteorologist Mike Linden here, coming at you live from the My Radar studio in Orlando, Florida. It is almost 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and we have been tracking Hurricane Dorian for several days now. But as you can see on the radar, it is sitting right off the coastline of South Carolina. We actually just got the 2 o'clock update from the National Hurricane Center, so let me read that off to you before we look at some pieces of video and before we get into the forecast. As we normally do with these live chats, by the way, if you have a question for myself, you have a question for meteorologist Stephanie Lauber, or if you have a question for Chief Meteorologist Leslie Hudson, pop it into the comments, and whoever the question is directed at, we will be sure to try to answer them as best as we can. So as of 2 o'clock, Hurricane Dorian remains Category 2 strength at 110 miles per hour. Keep in mind, Category 3 status is winds at 111 miles per hour sustained. So it is a top-end 2, pretty much a 3, but it is a 2. It is moving north-northeast at 8 miles per hour, so that has not changed. Really, the only changes has been the tropical storm warning has been discontinued for the coast of Georgia. We expected that. And the storm surge warning has been discontinued south of South Santee River in South Carolina. Those are the only changes from the forecast here. Let me see what else. According to the NHC, the center should move to the southeast of extreme southeastern New England Friday night and Saturday morning and approach Nova Scotia on Saturday. Reports from the Air Force Reserve Hurricane Hunter aircraft indicate the winds at 110 miles per hour with slow weakening expected over the next few days. Hurricane force winds extend up to 60 miles from the center. So if I draw that on the map here, that is right there, 60 miles. So that would include Charleston, South Carolina. And bear in mind, that's kind of an approximation there. What else we got here? That's really about it from the report. So again, not much has changed at 2 o'clock. We'll get the more full update at 5 o'clock, where we should get a lot more valuable information. Let me pop up the Periscope feed here. I lost it. Where did it go? There it is. Stand by, folks. Just want to be sure I'm not missing any questions. And we are good. Okay, so let's get into some pieces of video. Got some really exciting stuff to show you. Let's begin first with some video from our storm chaser, Aaron Jack. He was actually in our offices not too long ago here in Florida, but now he is in South Carolina chasing Dorian as Dorian works its way along the southeastern coastline of the United States. So let's check it out. This is some video that he shot earlier this morning in South Carolina. Look at the rough seas there. It might be hard to hear me over the video here. Yeah, so as you can tell, it is certainly not a good beach day in South Carolina there. Very rough seas. You can see the winds skirting across the top of the water there. Really incredible stuff. Aaron will continue to send us video throughout the day today, so be sure to check it out on all of our social media platforms. Now, let's check out potentially some of the coolest video that we have seen today. I say cool being that this would represent a once-in-a-lifetime experience for anybody to be on board this flight. But this video comes to us from aerospace engineer Nick Underwood of the NOAA Hurricane Hunters. They actually took a pass through the eye of the storm earlier this morning. Roll it, Damien. Check this video out. I mean, again, to have a seat on this flight would represent a bucket lister, I think, for a lot of folks in meteorology. Just look at that. Coming out out into the eye now. And you can just see how impressive the structure of this storm is. I mean, it certainly doesn't hold a candle to the Category 5 eye that we saw a couple of days ago, but regardless, man, that is just wild to see that we even can do things like this. Incredible. All right, so let's get back to the forecast. By the way, if you are watching, give Damien a big shout out. Damien's pulling the strings behind the scenes here, so let me know. Let Damien know that you are watching. just heard him from the other room. All right, so here's the live sweeping radar. Let's take a closer look at things, and I'm going to put this in a loop here. For that reason, because while Charleston has been dealing with the flash flooding threat. That's this green box here. The flash flooding threat, the hurricane-force winds, power outages. It's been rough in South Carolina. But it's almost been a totally different experience in North Carolina because there, tornadoes have been breaking out through most of the morning. In fact, that red box there up near Route 70, just to the east of Fayetteville and the west of Kinston, that is a tornado warning, that red box there. And let me pause this now. And the reason why you're seeing that is because of these bands here coming ashore. So, of course, in order to get tornadic development, you need wind shear, meaning you need winds going in two different directions. They don't have to be as extreme as that, but that's just an example. So while you have these bands coming ashore here with winds from the south-southeast, well, you have Dorian moving north-northeast. So that's why you have this kind of cross-section there of some pretty incredible shear, especially right here along the coastline. And let me zoom things out here so you guys can see what I'm talking about. Let's put it in motion here. So again, you can see where the rotation has been along the northeastern portion of the storm. In fact, if we were to split this into quadrants, typically one of the worst places to be in a hurricane is right up in here, the right front quadrant of the storm. Think about it like swinging a baseball bat, right? You're going to generate most of your power when you're going through your swing, right? So if the ball and the pitcher is coming right here, this is where you're going to try to make the contact, right? So this is typically where you're going to find in a hurricane the worst winds, right up in there, the the right front quadrant of the storm. Let's advance here. Let's take a look at the infrared imagery now. And this is going to show us the cloud tops. And you can see that we're already seeing some clouds from Dorian getting all the way up into Kentucky and into Pennsylvania. But of course, the core of the storm remains right here off the coastline of South Carolina. And I want you to see how darn close this thing is to the coastline. I mean, making a really, really close call. Really, really close call to portions of South Carolina. But it now begins its journey northeastward, potentially again trying to make landfall there in North Carolina, and that would be close to Myrtle Beach in South Carolina there. But the eye of the storm is not too far away from the folks in South Carolina. So again, if you are trying to do any kind of preparation, your time has run out. You need to be in a safe place as Dorian works its way through where you live, especially, again, if you live along that South Carolina-North Carolina border. It is pretty much right on top of you there. So as Dorian continues to nudge its way north-northeast, numerous tropical storm warnings and hurricane warnings remain in place, especially for the coastal areas and even into inland Virginia and up into the Delmarva Peninsula. That remains to be the case. You can see the red colors there for the North and South Carolina coastline. That represents a hurricane warning. North of that purple color into coastal Virginia that is a tropical storm warning, and north of that for the Delmarva Peninsula and trying to sneak its way into New Jersey there is a tropical storm watch. We will have to see whether or not the National Hurricane Center does extend that northward. But here is the cone, and you again can see, if I zoom in here, you can see that that coastal section of North Carolina is still absolutely in play for a landfall. Remember, it would be a Category 2, but it is at a top-end Category 2 at 110 miles per hour sustained. Remember, 111 for a Category 3, so it is super-duper close to being a low-end Cat 3. But there is still that potential. The NHC is leaving the coastal area of North Carolina in the cone. We'll get the next cone update at 5 o'clock, and that's going to prove to be very crucial to see whether or not they push the cone eastward or if they leave it the same, because there is certainly good potential for that landfall, potentially even multiple landfalls to occur here in North Carolina. That would include the Outer Banks, Cape Hatteras, Cape Fear, Wilmington, and even down into South Carolina and into Myrtle Beach. That remains a possibility too. Later this week, again, as discussed in the NHC breakdown, there is the possibility for Dorian to remain hurricane strength as it works its way past the tri-state area of New York, Pennsylvania, and Connecticut, New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania up into here. Connecticut also and Boston, Massachusetts remain in play too, not necessarily from a landfall, but likely to be dealing with some very rough seas, as well as, again, the potential for some heavy rains as Dorian passes by, because look at the potential wind speed there, 90 miles per hour. That would still, again, be a Cat 1 hurricane at that point, expected to continue to hold on to some of that hurricane strength and tropical storm strength as it even passes Nova Scotia and Newfoundland, Canada, on its way to the United Kingdom potentially next week. So over the past 24 hours, we've seen the eye of the storm really kind of hold shape. It's been running ragged at some points there, but you can see, especially as it gets closer to the coastline, the eye starts to kind of wobble a little bit there. So that is what we are currently trying to nail down to see whether or not it is going to make landfall. Still have yet to see anything of the sort. But what's super concerning right now, let alone the hurricane force winds, are the potential for tornadoes to continue to develop along the North Carolina coastline as this storm pushes northeast. Let's keep pushing forward here. Let's take a look at the NOWRAD radar, just a different radar product for you here. And again, this is once again showing you the super heavy rain sitting right over top of South Carolina. You can see that very dark blue color there. That is 1 to 2 inches of rainfall an hour for those spots there, as a storm surge warning does remain in effect for the North and South Carolina coastlines as well. Potentially anywhere from 2 to near 8 feet of storm surge. In fact, some local officials in the Charleston area potentially expect upwards of 10 feet locally in some spots. Looking at the inundation here, we'll take a trip up the coastline and you'll see the blues and the yellows there. That is 1 to 3 feet of storm surge, and that extends through Hilton Head Island in South Carolina, through Charleston. The Georgetown area could potentially see more than that, up near 6 to 8 feet. That extends into the Wilmington area of North Carolina. Again, the storm surge potentially upwards of 6 to even 10 feet there. As we continue our way up the North Carolina coastline, here's where you may run into a potential landfall situation near Morehead City in the Outer Banks. The chances there of a landfall are certainly possible, and the storm surge potential would be up near 3 to near 6 feet as well. Here is a potential model run that keeps the eye of Dorian really close to the coast, but pay close attention here early Friday morning. There is that potential for that eye to make land. If it does, it is going to only do so super briefly, but it is going to be as close as a call as really you'd like to see for the folks there. And again, Dorian continues to hug the coastline almost all the way into Canada. Hopefully it has its passport. Let's look here at the precipitation forecast, and while those numbers there are going to show 4 to 5 inches of rain over the course of the next 12 hours, I would anticipate those numbers to be significantly higher, especially if Dorian, again, tries to creep its way inland there. So those numbers aren't necessarily coming in correct here on this model run. I would expect what you see there to double it, if not a little bit more than that. And we are right now dealing with the most crucial portion of the steering flow, because that trough has kind of done its job to keep Florida kind of at bay. But you can see right up in here into this this trough where this ridge is trying to cut in. There's definitely that chance for the eye of Dorian to just barely touch the coastline here before pulling off toward the northeast and heading up towards Canada. So the steering flow has definitely been something that we have continued to watch. But if you are again, a coastal resident of North Carolina, you have to really be bracing for some strong winds potentially coming your way. This model showing hurricane force winds up near 84 miles per hour in Wilmington, as the strongest of the winds stay off the coast. That's that purple color there. But there is, again, that possibility for those hurricane force winds to pretty much be right on top of the Outer Banks, the Cape Hatteras area later this week. I keep saying later this week, tomorrow evening. One last thing I want to look at here. A lot of people have been asking what exactly storm surge is, and I think this graphic does a great job at explaining it. So let's take normal sea level as the baseline. Anything above that would represent the surge. So if the number is 3 to 6 feet, again, starting at the baseline sea level where you live, it's 3 to 6 feet of water above that. To put things into perspective, Grand Bahamas dealt with 20 to near 30 feet of storm surge. Right now along the coastline of North and South Carolina, the most that's expected locally is up near 10 feet to near 12 feet rather. So it could get hairy in some spots, but it doesn't even hold a candle to what the Bahamas went through for 36 straight hours. So let's jump back to the live radar here, and let me jump over to the comments. If you guys have any questions for me, now is the time to ask them. Let's see here. If you guys have any questions for me, again, now is the time to ask them. We've got Kevin on Twitter saying the more that he studies the Doppler, the more I think landfall between Little River, South Carolina, and Long Beach, North Carolina. Well, Kevin, those locations are in the cone. So again, there is the possibility of it, but if it were to occur, it is going to be a super duper close call. What else we got here? Oh, Sandy Rose, shout out to Damian. How about that? Fantastic. Sandy says that she's about 50 miles inland from South Carolina, or from Charleston, South Carolina. It's been windy and wet today. I would have to imagine that you still have power there, Sandy, as you are communicating with us here. If not, be sure that you have a power bank or something ready to go, so that way you can keep your cell phone charged. And that looks to be about it from the comments. Again, if you guys have any questions for us at any time, please reach out to us on social media. Damian, roll that graphic. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You can find us everywhere. My Radar on Facebook, My Radar WX on Twitter, and My Radar on Instagram. And of course, if you are watching on YouTube, do us a solid and subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to turn the notifications on. That we always know whenever we drop a new video, or whenever we go live, for that matter. You can download the app on Google Play, on the App Store, on the Windows Store, and even on Amazon Alexa. If you have the one with the screen, the Echo Show, check that version of the app out. It is super cool. So again, if you have anything to send to us, any video, any images, please do so on social media. And of course, we want you to stay safe, especially for those of you living in the coastal areas of South and North Carolina. From all of us here at My Radar, I have been meteorologist Mike Linden for this live update. Until the next one, stay dry and stay safe. We'll catch you later.
Continuing hurricane coverage on My Radar.